But I finally got a hold of the people from Green Mountain Power based on that letter, who apologized profusely for not getting back to me. And here is a summary of what they said, which was fascinating to me, and I'll just go through it quickly. I talked to a guy named Jared Wilcox, who is the Green Mountain Power forester, and they have, and I excuse this this summary is a little bit choppy because it went as the discussion went. These are from my notes, but they had this mitigation strategy which they presented to the Public Utility Commission. They have 11,000 miles of transmission lines in Vermont, and they, based on the presentation they did to the Public Utility Commission, they got this $1.2 million a year for the next 2 years. And he talked about the ANR Slow the Spread campaign, and we both agreed that that's just window dressing. It's not going to make any difference at all in what's going on. But this map here that you all have shows where the emerald ash borer is, and the little silver circle is Weston. So it's not here yet, but man, it's coming. And apparently it's, this guy Jared Wilcox said it's coming faster than they were hoping. But they are now prioritizing cutting all the trees in the confirmed infested areas, which are the little red circles, which is anytime they see a tree, an ash tree that has emerald ash borer or some dieback on the top, there's a 5-mile circle that's drawn around that, which is called the critical confirmed infested area. And the yellow ones around it is another 5 miles, which are high-risk areas. They're going to update that map. You can find it pretty easily online. I just, dialed it up and got it. So what they're going to do in the confirmed infested areas, they're prioritizing first their big transmission lines, which serve the more urban areas here in Vermont, and in the rural areas the transmission lines are single phase, and they're going to do a first cut in these critical areas on the line side of the roads, and a second cut on the other side. But their plan is they're just going to cut down all the ash trees. And they say that cutting them down before they die, according to them, costs a third as much as cutting them down when they're dead. And did you read this thing about Asplund, Denny? I thought you would be particularly interested in it. Asplund, apparently, they have just passed a new policy. Yeah. And they have 10,000 workers in the United States that forbids their workers to climb any ash tree from October 1st through May 1st, because you can't tell when the leaves are off, you can't tell if the tree is dead, and they've already lost 2 people, because when the trees die, they get brittle and people fall out of them.
I think I said when I first brought this up, much better to cut a live tree than a dead one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's their plan. They're not waiting around for stuff to die. They're just getting in there and taking them out. Right now they're spending $10 million a year just trimming around their power lines, and so the additional $1.2 million is going to be to go in and basically clear out all the ash around their power lines in those infested areas. But he mentioned that New York State right now is spending, the power companies in New York State are spending 10 million or more just removing ash trees right now. And that's gonna go on for a long time. And I questioned him about their census of the trees, and their tree surveys indicate that about 10% of the trees that are around their right-of-ways are ash, which equals about 10.7 ash trees per mile. We got 50 per mile in our
Yeah, but this says it includes the conifer forest on northeast.
exactly. So we're close enough
Yeah,
to
that's gonna take their average way down,
way down.
because that's a large
Yeah.
area.
So just to summarize, it looks to me, and it's clear to me that Green Mountain Power they're going to be really doing the heavy lifting on this ash removal. As long as there are power lines running along the road, they're doing both sides. So our issue now, when we're talking about surveys, and I don't feel a need to do any more surveying. We know what our number is to within a decent enough tolerance. But what we don't know is how many of our town roads don't have power lines along them. And that's what we got to figure out so that we can figure out how to deal with it. So that's it. But it was
You got
this
one
guy
more.
was really good.
You got one more equation to figure in there, because you got Moses Pond Road, Johnny Coolidge Brook, Greendale, and there's a ton of Green Mountain National Forest there, and they get mighty protective when somebody thinks they're going to go cut trees, even if they're in there right away, because we had a little blowdown up in the truck club a few years ago, and Almond boys went out and cut the wood and stacked it outside the road, and they showed up and says, "Those are our trees, you will not take them."
Great. Well, that's I love that precedent.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
so,
Because, that's first job, figure out how many of our roads don't have any power lines on them. And I guess part two of that is to figure out how much of that is either in or adjoins national forest. And then we can start to figure out how we're going to manage this thing.